Welcome to my channel. In the realm of American coin collecting, few coins carry the mystique and intrigue of the unassuming 1-cent penny. Day after day, these little copper discs pass through countless hands, often without a second thought. But hidden among the billions lies a handful of extraordinary pieces, coins that defy their humble denomination. Among these is the 1975 USA 1-cent penny, a coin so seemingly ordinary yet holding within it a story of history, craftsmanship, rarity, and ultimately tremendous value. What begins as a simple coin minted in the heart of the 1970s unravels into a tale worth over $122,000. But before we reach that astonishing finale, let us journey back in time to understand just how such a modest piece of currency could become a legendary treasure in the numismatic world. The mid-1970s in America were years of transition, uncertainty, and transformation. The Vietnam War was drawing to a controversial close, the Watergate scandal had just shaken the nation, and the economy was grappling with inflation and oil shortages. Amid these turbulent times, the United States Mint continued its tireless work, producing the coins that would flow through the pockets and purses of millions. The penny, bearing the familiar visage of Abraham Lincoln, remained a cornerstone of American currency. Introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth, the design by Victor David Brenner had become iconic. By 1975, the Lincoln cent had seen relatively few changes in its overall appearance, but subtle variations and minting peculiarities gave each year's issue its own character. In 1975, the penny was still being minted primarily in copper, composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. This composition gave it a rich, reddish hue that collectors would come to love, especially as the approaching 1980s would soon bring about a major change in the metal content of pennies. The 1975 penny was struck in three primary locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Those minted in Philadelphia bore no mint mark, while those from Denver had a small D below the date, and the San Francisco issues, mostly proof coins intended for collectors, carried an S from a sheer production standpoint. The 1975 penny was anything but rare. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 5.4 billion of them. Denver added more than 4.5 billion to the mix. Even San Francisco, focused on proof coins, turned out over 2.8 million. But as any seasoned collector knows, quantity alone does not tell the whole story. It is within these billions of coins that anomalies emerge, errors, variations, and incredibly well-preserved examples that can elevate a penny from pocket change to prized artifact. So, what makes a 1975 penny worth over $122,000? The answer begins with rarity, but it ends with condition, curiosity, and the passionate pursuit of perfection. Among the billions of pennies minted that year, only a minuscule fraction were struck with exceptional precision, preserved meticulously, and retained their original luster for nearly half a century. Some were errors, flukes of the minting process that created double strikes, off-center images, or unusual planchets. Others were simply so pristine, so untouched by time and circulation that they stood as monuments to the art of coinage itself. Collectors have long hunted for these elusive gems. They scoured bank rolls, estate sales, and dusty drawers in search of that one penny that could defy expectations. One of the most remarkable finds came not from a vault or museum, but from a private collection, where a 1975 penny, flawless in its strike, gleaming with original copper brilliance, and free of even the faintest blemish, was uncovered. It was a coin that seemed to have traveled through time without aging a day. Certified by professional grading services as MS-67 red or even higher, it became the envy of collectors across the nation. This exceptional quality, often referred to by its grading MS or mint state on a scale up to 70, matters immensely in the world of numismatics. The difference between a penny graded MS-65 and one graded MS-67 can be thousands of dollars. And when that coin is tied to a specific year, like 1975, and a known scarcity of high-grade examples from that year, its value skyrockets. But rarity and grade alone are only part of the story. There are whispers in the collecting community of even more peculiar versions of the 1975 penny, those struck on experimental planchets, or bearing phantom doubling that borders on the surreal. These anomalies become the stuff of legend, prompting debates and investigations, often culminating in auction house showdowns where collectors wage war with wallets, driven by obsession and the desire to own a slice of history. Each penny has a story: how it was struck, how it survived, and how it was ultimately discovered. One particularly famous specimen was found in uncirculated condition, graded MS-67 red by the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS. This penny, gleaming as though freshly minted, possessed a perfect strike, a deep copper color untouched by oxidation, and flawless surfaces. It was submitted to auction with modest expectations, but as word spread among elite collectors, the bidding escalated rapidly. The final hammer fell at an eye-watering $122,000, a sum that left jaws dropped and headlines spinning. A single cent transformed into a six-figure treasure. For many, this revelation opened their eyes to the hidden potential in the change rattling at the bottom of their jars. It inspired a new wave of enthusiasts to take a closer look at the pennies they encountered every day. Armed with magnifying glasses, coin reference guides, and boundless curiosity, they searched for doubling on Lincoln's profile, anomalies in the lettering, and signs of unusually high relief or mirror-like surfaces. Every 1975 penny became a potential jackpot, a puzzle piece in a greater story. But what drives this kind of value? Beyond rarity and condition, it's also about provenance, timing, and the emotional resonance of a coin. The 1975 penny sits at a crossroads in American coinage, just a few years before the metal composition would change dramatically in 1982, just after the peak of proof production in San Francisco, and amid a period of economic challenge that makes its survival in pristine condition all the more remarkable. It is a coin that represents the resilience of the American spirit, struck during a time of uncertainty yet enduring as a symbol of excellence. And then there's the artistry. Victor David Brenner's design, while over 6 decades old by 1975, still carried weight. The stoic profile of Lincoln, gazing rightward, symbolized steadfast leadership. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stood in proud symmetry, its classical architecture rendered in miniature with astonishing detail. On high-grade examples, one can even see the faint outline of Lincoln seated within the memorial, an Easter egg of sorts that delights collectors to this day. The coin is not just currency, it is a work of art, history, and technology. The story of the $122,000 penny is also a story of dedication. Those who find these rarities often spend years learning the intricacies of coin production. They study the strike pressure, the die alignment, the rim thickness, and the luster under different lighting conditions. They join communities, attend conventions, and build relationships with dealers and experts. And when they finally find that one perfect coin, the penny that eclipses all others, it becomes not just a victory but a legacy. This legacy continues to grow as the market for rare coins shows no sign of slowing down. Auction houses report increasing interest in high-grade Lincoln cents, especially from the 1970s. Collectors from around the world are investing in American numismatics not only for their historical value but also as tangible assets, pieces of enduring worth in a volatile financial world. The 1975 penny in its finest form has become a blue-chip coin, a touchstone of a collecting era that values precision, rarity, and narrative. And so, we return to the simple penny, a coin that most people wouldn't stoop to pick up on the sidewalk. But in the case of the 1975 Lincoln cent, appearances are deceiving. Under the right circumstances, in the right condition, and in the right hands, this little coin becomes a marvel of American minting history. Its value, once limited to a single cent, now stretches into 6 figures. $122,000 for a coin that once bought a stick of gum. It's a reminder that greatness often hides in plain sight and that the most extraordinary treasures can come from the most ordinary places. So the next time you sift through your spare change, take a closer look. That unassuming 1975 penny in your palm might just be more than a coin. It might be a story, a masterpiece, a fortune. And if you're lucky, it might be the next $122,000 legend waiting to be discovered. In the vast world of coin collecting, where every tiny detail matters and where history, artistry, and chance intersect in fascinating ways, certain coins stand out not because they are made of precious metals or because they boast extravagant designs, but because they tell a deeper story, one woven into the fabric of a nation's identity. Among these coins lies the humble yet extraordinary 1964 USA 1-cent penny. At first glance, it's a coin so common that most people wouldn't give it a second thought. But under the right conditions, with the right eye and the right knowledge, this unassuming piece of copper becomes a hidden treasure, one that can command a staggering value of $124,000. And as we unravel its journey from the minting presses to the hands of collectors, from forgotten drawers to high-profile auctions, the story of the 1964 penny becomes a captivating tale of history, rarity, and remarkable fortune. The year was 1964. America stood at a critical juncture. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy in the previous year had plunged the nation into mourning, leaving a void that still felt fresh in the national consciousness. Lyndon B. Johnson, now at the helm of the presidency, was steering the country through profound social and political changes. The civil rights movement was reaching a pivotal moment, with calls for justice and equality ringing louder than ever. The Vietnam War was escalating, and with it, growing tension across the country. Amid these dramatic historical shifts, the United States Mint carried on with its essential duty, producing the currency that kept the economy moving, that changed hands daily, and that, in some cases, silently witnessed the moments that would shape a generation. Among the coins being minted that year was the Lincoln cent, a familiar sight to every American since 1909. Designed by the acclaimed sculptor Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln cent was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, Abraham Lincoln, on its obverse. The reverse, introduced in 1959 to mark the sesquicentennial of Lincoln's birth, featured the Lincoln Memorial, a stately and iconic structure that reflected the grandeur and reverence of the nation's memory of its 16th president. This reverse design, created by Frank Gasparo, replaced the wheat ears that had graced the back of the penny for the first half of the century. In 1964, the penny remained predominantly copper in composition. 95% copper and 5% zinc. It was struck in two primary mints, Philadelphia and Denver. Those from Philadelphia bore no mint mark, while those from Denver were distinguished by a small D beneath the date on the obverse. The total mintage numbers were enormous. Over 3.7 billion were minted in Philadelphia alone, and another 3.8 billion came out of the Denver Mint. With numbers like these, it would be easy to assume that a 1964 penny is among the most common coins ever made, and in sheer volume, it is. But as any seasoned numismatist will tell you, even in oceans of similarity, there are islands of uniqueness. That's where the intrigue begins. In the world of coin collecting, condition, rarity, and anomalies make all the difference. Among the billions of 1964 pennies that were churned out that year, a very small number were struck with exceptional care, preserved under perfect conditions, or made with slight but significant minting errors that have turned them into treasures worth thousands, and in one incredible case, $124,000. Imagine holding a coin that has somehow evaded the wear and tear of circulation for nearly 6 decades. No nicks, no scratches, no discoloration. Its luster still gleaming as if it had just left the minting press yesterday. This is what collectors dream of, a coin graded MS-67 red or even higher. These coins, preserved in mint state condition with their full red copper coloration intact, are rare gems in a sea of ordinary currency. And the 1964 penny, especially those with perfect strikes, full original luster, and no carbon spots or toning, are among the most coveted. But there's more than just condition. Some 1964 pennies carry mysterious traits, errors, anomalies, or irregularities that make them stand out. There are instances of double-die obverse varieties, where Lincoln's profile or the inscriptions appear slightly doubled due to a misalignment during the minting process. These doubling errors are subtle to the untrained eye but immediately jump out to those who know what to look for. There are off-center strikes, coins struck on the wrong planchet, and even rumors of transitional errors where coins were made using leftover planchets from previous years or experimental metals. These errors elevate a regular coin into something extraordinary. And in a few instances, collectors have found 1964 pennies that defy explanation, coins that appear to have been struck with unusually high pressure, resulting in razor-sharp details, or those struck from exceptionally fresh dies that created an almost proof-like finish. These are the coins that fetch eye-popping sums at auction, and they're so rare that even seasoned experts might go their entire careers without holding one. Perhaps the most famous example is a 1964 Lincoln cent discovered in a private collection, meticulously preserved and eventually submitted for professional grading. It was assigned a near-perfect MS-67 red designation, a grade that only the tiniest fraction of 1964 pennies can achieve. The coin's surfaces were immaculate, its color rich and unblemished, and its strike strong and perfectly centered. When it hit the auction block, it triggered a fierce bidding war. Collectors from around the world recognized its rarity, its pristine preservation, and its historical significance. The final sale price? A breathtaking $124,000. How could a coin worth just a single cent transform into a six-figure artifact? It's a convergence of multiple factors. First, the sheer difficulty of finding a coin in such pristine condition from a year when coins were heavily circulated. Next, the emotional and historical resonance of 1964, a year of both national tragedy and transformation. And finally, the artistic and numismatic significance of the Lincoln cent itself, an enduring design that connects the past with the present. For collectors, coins like the 1964 penny represent more than just monetary value. They are portals to the past, frozen moments in metal. Every groove, every line, every contour of Lincoln's profile tells a story. And on the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial reminds us of the principles that continue to define America. To own such a coin is to own a piece of history, a work of miniature art, and a symbol of enduring value. The rise in popularity of coin collecting over the past few decades has only added to the mystique. With the proliferation of online marketplaces, coin forums, and YouTube channels dedicated to numismatics, more and more people are discovering the hidden potential in their spare change. The 1964 penny, with its massive mintage and surprising potential for high value, has become one of the most searched for coins in America. Every collector, beginner, or expert knows to keep an eye out for it. Of course, most 1964 pennies are worth face value. They're abundant and in circulated condition, they don't command much interest. But the thrill lies in the search, the possibility that one might stumble upon a rare gem hidden in plain sight. Stories abound of people finding valuable coins in old jars, change drawers, or inherited collections. And each new discovery fuels the passion of the community. In this way, the 1964 penny has become more than just a coin. It's a symbol of hope and excitement, of the idea that extraordinary value can lie beneath the surface of the everyday. It encourages people to look closely, to study carefully, and to appreciate the tiny works of art that pass through our hands every day. And in a world that often rushes past the small details, that's a powerful reminder. The story of the $124,000 1964 penny is also a tribute to the dedication of collectors. Those who spend years learning about die varieties, minting processes, grading standards, and historical context. Those who devote countless hours to sifting through rolls of coins, scrutinizing surfaces under magnification, and preserving their finds with the utmost care. For them, the reward is not just financial, it's the satisfaction of discovery, the joy of connecting with history, and the pride of building a collection that reflects both knowledge and passion. And so, we arrive at the stunning conclusion. The 1964 1-cent penny, one of the most common coins ever minted, born in a year of national change and charged with symbolic weight, has achieved a status that few could have predicted. In perfect condition, it is a numismatic marvel, a collector's dream, and a financial windfall. A single cent transformed into $124,000. A tiny disc of copper transformed into a timeless legend. Next time you reach into your pocket or pour out a jar of loose change, take a moment. Look closely. That unremarkable 1964 penny you almost tossed aside might be something far greater. It might be history. It might be art. It might even be the next great discovery. And just maybe it might be worth $124,000.